I'm John Ed Mathison, and welcome to a great podcast that's going to talk about how we can serve you in different ways in life. And I've got two great people here today. My college, Huntingdon College, the president, Anthony Leigh. And Anthony, I just couldn't be proud of the fact that you are there. And also Linley, thank you so much. I asked him to bring the star student in all of Huntingdon, and he brought you today, and that is the best way to do. This is go-getters and go-givers. And right here you've got two go-getters, and they're also go-givers. And so I'd like for people to learn just a little bit about you all. Anthony, we've known each other for a long time. Well, we have too. You started out in this church in the kindergarten.
Yes.
And you've grown up in that. And then, Anthony, I remember the Sunday you came here for the first time. You were assistant treasurer and in politics, and some guys invited you. And by the way, that's the way churches grow. Friends bring friends. And would you just maybe tell the congregation that first, how we connected that first time?
One of the things that is great about Montgomery is it's one of the most church competitive towns. And when the moving truck shows up in a neighborhood, or you've got a new guy that starts working at a place of business, everybody in Montgomery wants to be sure that you know when their church services are. And there were a number of members of the Frazier family that extended that invitation to me to come and visit their church. John Ed, I was raised both Catholic and Methodist. My mother is a very devout Catholic woman, and my father is a very active Methodist man.
That's a perfect setting for a good Frazier Methodist person.
That's right. Well, I ended up going to a Methodist college. I went to Wofford College, and while I was there, I was involved in both the Catholic student ministry and also attended the Sunday morning worship service that was led by our Methodist pastor. And so I was very open to and very comfortable in a Methodist church. But I have to tell you, John Ed, Frazier was a little intimidating for this small town guy. Frazier at the time was bigger than my hometown. And I think I told you that on my first day, but there were so many people who made me feel welcome, and I got to hear a dynamic sermon and some amazing music.
We had a visiting pastor.
We did.
That day,
I think I went to the contemporary service. But there was just a special spirit here that really captivated my heart. And I had visited a couple of other churches when I had first moved here, but I remember leaving the Frazier parking lot that Sunday morning and being excited about coming back the next week.
And one of the greatest days for Frazier was when you came back the next Sunday, and the next Sunday, and a little bit after that. Now, you didn't just move here from another town. You were in kindergarten when you started here at Frazier.
And my mom went here too. She was in the student ministry and all those things. So I've been here my whole life.
And your mom does what now?
She is a therapist. She is a family and marriage one specifically, and she recently opened her own counseling center right below us right now, actually.
Here at Frazier.
Turnabout Counseling Center.
Right. And you went through school and all that. And let me just ask you a question. How did you pick Huntingdon as your school?
I mean, Frazier, lots of connections. I knew President Leigh. I knew his amazing daughter because of children's ministry. That's where you can find me most Sundays. But I knew him, and I knew so many Huntingdon graduates that went to Frazier. It was almost crazy that once, like, the name Huntingdon came up, how many people were like, oh, I went there, or I went to Huntingdon, and it meant a lot to me. And my mom was like, you need to go check it out. You need to see what it's all about. And I went, and it was amazing. Everyone knew my name. I was like, I don't even know your name. How do you know who I am? But they were so welcoming, and that's the atmosphere at Huntingdon.
She's kind of a big deal. We already knew who she was.
That's right, and great student. Well, let me just ask you, I know you came here as a politician.
I was a public servant, John.
A public servant. But I remember you told me how if anything ever came around that you might do some kind of something church related.
Yeah, well, I got married in 2007, and
where did you find a wife?
In Sunday school here at Frazier.
Oh,
and
yes.
We were both part of a young professional Sunday school class, and sweet Mary Lou Wyndham invited me to host an In His Steps party at my house.
Wow.
In the fall of 2006, and I told her she could put anybody in the congregation on my invitation list to have a dessert party at my house on a Sunday afternoon. And Wendy Thomason was the only person on that invitation list that I knew because she was in my Sunday school class, and she came to my party, and maybe a dozen other people, and as she was talking about all of the ways in which she's involved in the life of the church, God spoke to me and said, you've been praying about that special person, and she's been right in front of you the whole time.
And she's been coming to your party ever since. and I tell you, y'all make a great, great couple.
Thank you.
But then an opportunity arose for a change in your professional life.
Well, I was open to doing something other than state government. I had had an amazing experience working in Washington and the U.S. Senate, and then working in the state treasurer's office. But I was looking for something that gave me an opportunity to not have my job security dependent upon the wisdom of voters. And I shared with you that heart for doing something else, and an opportunity presented itself in 2008 when the Vice President for External Affairs position opened up at your alma mater, Huntingdon College, a faith-based college, very similar to the school that I attended in South Carolina. And sometimes you're prayed up, and you don't have to pause and pray about whether or not an opportunity is right for you. I knew when I heard about that opportunity that was a great fit for my talents, and something that I thought that at the age of 30, I could see myself doing that job until I retire. And 17 years later, I've had a couple of promotions, now serve as president, and fully love the work of serving students at Huntingdon College.
Let's go back when you first started. I remember you told me one day about your new, position there at Huntingdon and working, and you'd been there a while, and you said something about speaking to students about their faith. What did you tell me?
Sure. Well, that 18 to 22 year period of one person's life is such a magical and transformative time in one's life. And so many of our students, they come from families of faith. They come from a place of being raised in a church. But when you go off to college and you don't have mom or dad that are making sure that you wake up and that you get to church, your faith becomes much more your own when you go off to college. And it's such a special thing to be able to have conversations with students that are really starting to make that intentional decision on their own, that I'm going to go to church on Sunday. I'm going to get involved in a small group. I'm going to attend our Tuesday night worship service at Huntingdon. And it's really, it's very special to me to see students really take charge of their faith, sometimes for the first time in their life when they go off to college. And sometimes they get plugged into a new type of ministry that's more exciting maybe than the one that they came from in high school. Again, Montgomery has so many wonderful faith communities, and regardless of what one's denomination is, they can find a vibrant college ministry here in Montgomery, and it's just very special.
Yeah, and I remember you said it's just great to be in a profession where it's okay.
That's right.
To answer questions and talk to people about their faith. And you've been such a great person of faith, Linley. And tell me, has Huntingdon played any role in that? Is that a helpful place? Now, we're going to have a lot of folks listening and watching to this who are in high school, and I know they're saying, I'd like to find a good college with faith-based and my faith can grow. Has that happened in your life?
I think my faith has been challenged in the sense of growing up in a church, or even in a town like Montgomery, where I can choose who I surround myself with and the people that I surround myself with. I have always been I'm going to surround myself with people that believe the same thing as me, and we have the same interests. And in college, even at one as such as small as Huntingdon, you meet so many different people and you're pushed in so many different ways. I know that, there's so many examples in the Bible where Jesus was with people that didn't believe the same thing as him, and he wanted to surround himself with that. It pushed him in the way that he could share God's love. And I know I have friends that believe complete different things than me, that see the world differently, and yet we're still able to have respectful conversations, even though we don't see eye to eye on it all. And I think Huntingdon pushes you to meet so many different new people, and that's really amazing. I know for sure.
Let me just ask you, now you're a college president, and I stand in awe at your leadership and what you're doing at my alma mater. I know I just heard, tell me if this is true, that this fall there'll be more students at Huntingdon College than ever in the history of the college.
True story. We're expecting the largest enrollment, traditional enrollment. We're going to have more students living on campus than any other year in the history of the college. We're going to have the largest incoming class in the history of the college, and that tells me that our college is relevant today to what students are seeking. We are increasingly recognized as one of the South's premier pre-professional colleges. There's a lot of emphasis on encouraging students to go get a trade or to go get a certificate in welding or plumbing, and those are great concepts, and there's a lot of people who need that 2-year degree, that trade school degree. But there's still a lot of people out there that are looking for a pre-professional experience. They're looking to be a veterinarian or a doctor or some other healthcare professional, a lawyer, a teacher, a preacher, a banker, a businessman, accountant, a public servant. And we have such a track record of preparing students for lives as professionals. And I think that word is getting out that there's not a better place to prepare for a life of success as a professional than Huntingdon College.
I remember when I was there, the word was that anybody who was in pre-med or pre-dental or whatever, every person, 100%, got into med school or that school. I mean, they were that well prepared. Now, that's a great, great thing. I think maybe that's why I wanted to look at med school, but they said, no, we don't want you to break the record, so why don't you try the ministry and do something else?
Well, I'll tell you a pretty cool statistic. We've had 642 students have walked across our graduation stage over the last 4 years. And of those 642, 77 of them are now in a medical doctoral program, with another 43 in a health-related master's degree program. So that's 1 in 6. We've also sent quite a few to seminary and to law school. We have 84 students out of the last 642 that have graduated that are now teaching in elementary school, middle school, or high school, with most of those in the state of Alabama, helping to meet that critical need of our state's teacher shortage.
Yeah, and I have lunch sometimes with a group of guys that all played some sport at Huntingdon.
Successful
and
men.
Every one of them were successful, not every one of them, but most of them were successful coaches, and some of them went into other things. But most of the coaches in the Tri-County area around here, junior high and then high school, were all products of Huntingdon College. That's right. Every sport, and I was real proud of that.
Basketball and baseball are our two most storied programs. We've been since you came to Huntingdon in 1742, I think.
No, I came with Columbus.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. We've had a basketball team since the late 50s, early 60s, when you were the pioneer for the program. And certainly we've had a lot of coaches that have gone on to coach basketball and baseball. But what's really interesting, we've had a football program now for 22 years. And Coach Mike Turk has been the coach for 21 of those years. There's now 10 high school football coaches, head football coaches in the state of Alabama that played for Coach Turk at Huntingdon. And there's about another 100 assistant coaches across the state of Alabama that played football at Huntingdon College. So there's a great legacy of our institution of preparing people to go and be educators and coaches.
Now, we're doing really 2 sessions together, and in the next session, I want to get into that a little bit because it's interesting. Mike Turk, I used to be the chaplain for a high school team, and I always said that Mike couldn't even take a snap, and I had worked with him a little bit at quarterback. And
we appreciate that.
And he did so great, winning, was an All-American, and now has been a tremendous coach. And what worship do you go to, or do you have a worship? Or what enhances your Christian faith, Linley, at Huntingdon?
So outside of Huntingdon, I'm a regular attender of Fraser every Sunday, but at Huntingdon, we have something amazing called Tuesday Night Worship that's led by our chaplain, Rhett Butler. It's a place where anyone can come, whether you are strong in your faith or not. I'm constantly inviting friends. Friends are constantly asking me if I can go, and it's really nice because it's right there on campus. And like President Leigh said, a lot of times when you go away from home and you're not close to your normal church, your faith is your own. And they're enabling us to be able to go right there, to walk outside of our dorm and walk right into Flowers Chapel and worship. It's not a far walk at all. And I think that's something that's great for students, is that even if it is a sports season, they can go when they don't have practice, or when their sports practice is over. They just want anyone to come and to be there to worship, to hear the message. We take communion too on Thursdays. You can come in the afternoon. The ministry there, they also do a lunch with anyone that wants to come and eat with them. So there's so many opportunities to be involved.
And it's just a place where your faith can be nurtured and it can also grow. Well, in our next session, I want us to get into that more and to see how that impacts everything that happens. And of course, I don't have any interest in sports, but I would like to just hear a little bit about, because it's incredible what's happened in the sports world. So in our next session, let's follow up on that. So I want you to be sure to join us again next week, and we're going to walk through a lot more. And maybe I need to apologize. She keeps calling you President Leigh. I call you Anthony. I'm sorry. I need to show a little more respect for that.
You get grandfathered in. You knew me before I was president.
Great. Well, hey, thank y'all, and thank you so much, and thank you for being a part of this, and we'll continue it next week.